Om Shanti. Good evening, warm welcome. I see that you are elevating. Welcome to Interview with Raj Yogi, exploring the essentials of Raj Yoga. Tonight we have part 2 of studying with a clean heart, and we'll start with reflection as usual. Sitting quietly, I bring into my mind's eye the image of a pool of water, and I'm sitting at the edge, looking into that pool of water. And when the surface of the water is calm and clear and undisturbed, I can see with absolute clarity into the depths of that pool of water. I can see what's going on under the surface. But if the surface of the water is agitated, disturbed, frenetic, I can't see clearly at all. And what I do see is distorted. This is like looking inside the self, studying the self. If there is not complete honesty, if there are subtle desires, if there's worry, fear, tension, overthinking, I don't have as much clarity. It's challenging to study the self, the depths of the self. But if I look at the self through clear eyes, calm eyes, peaceful eyes, as if looking from beyond, from a contented place, it's easier to be honest, and I can see more clearly, more accuracy in studying myself. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Welcome to Raja Yoga Essentials. So we're continuing with last week's session, studying with a clean heart, and so lovely reflection that actually easily brings us back to that topic. Actually, with these sessions that come up on Tuesdays and Thursdays, some details, the essentials, and one of the essentials which can often be forgotten is, what is this all for? And so in terms of a clean heart, what is Raja Yoga for? Maybe there are some who forgot or have not taken it, or sometimes we can lose the point while we're studying. What is it for?
Um, in a nutshell, Raj Yoga has the same objective as everything else we do in our life. Everything we do is motivated towards the same destination, which is peace and happiness. That's the ultimate goal of Raj Yoga. What is unique about Raj Yoga is its understanding of how to attain peace and happiness. So we have our own ideas of how to attain peace and happiness. And then Raj Yoga suggests or offers a pathway towards peace and happiness, which, of course, I'm biased, I feel is quite successful, but is based on an understanding of ourselves as being a soul. So, a spiritual pathway to peace and happiness.
So, so that's a great question one asks is what does a clean heart have to do with that then?
Mm.
I think that there's perhaps maybe ideas we have about spirituality we may not even know coming into it.
In general, when we're asked to, because Raj Yoga will ask us to change. And whenever we're asked to make any change, it's fine if we're a blank slate. You know, if it's like they say children are wonderful learners because they don't yet have any other understanding. But it's a different case. This happens with every soul that we come to Raj Yoga with our own habits and ideas and beliefs. And so they can act as kind of stowaways on our journey towards the destination. And so as I'm moving along, I may not know that an old belief, an old habit, an old desire, an old attachment, something old is interfering in my progress. And I need to be very clean and clear to see that that is happening. So we have this idea of a chart or keeping an eye on ourselves in a very clean, clear way. It is the past that creates the most interference in any kind of change. Forget about Raj Yoga, any process of change. Of course, it's the old, the status quo that fights back or opposes. And it's no different with Raj Yoga. It's just more subtle.
Now, I know that that word dirty is a pretty strong word, but
Mm.
clean heart versus a dirty heart. What is that? What does that mean with respect to seeing myself properly?
Yeah, I think everyone's definitely familiar with those terms from a spiritual or metaphorical perspective when we will say, well, my intentions were not quite clean. We know that means that they were dirty if they weren't clean.
Yeah, stating the obvious, but it sounds
So,
doesn't sound good.
yeah, we don't ever say it that way because it sounds very odd. But this idea of, that there's something mixed, something, some little, we use the word desire or attachment that's holding us back. So we actually connect attachments to dirt. And when we look at the idea of dirt or dust or something that's not clean, if I'm living in a space and I go for a while without organizing or cleaning it, the past, all the actions of the past are accumulating and building up. And I want to sort of come clean, if you will, or clear out or sort out all that I've accumulated through past activity. That's what cleaning house is about, is you're clearing out the accumulation from past activity. And so that happens spiritually as well, is I'm trying to do something new, and that's going to require cleaning out or organizing, sorting out the old. But the old doesn't want to be sorted or cleared out. So how to keep things clean. And I just add that I know that Nora's a nurse, so she can sort of resonate with this. I've always been intrigued or feel that spiritual Raja was also a healing um, process or practice. It's a spiritually healing practice. And when someone's having an operation, they are so intent on wanting to keep the site of the operation clean. They do not want any dirt because it will cause infection and issues and a lot of difficulty. So when it comes to an operation, we want to keep it clean, keep dousing it with water, clearing out any germs. So this is also relevant.
Now, it's a sensitive topic in the sense that many do have fear when it comes to spirituality, perhaps, and this is because souls have mentioned very negative experiences with religion. Right? It's and so perhaps maybe we, um, as souls, as human souls, have you know, through time have made things such that spirituality and religion, something that maybe it wasn't originally. So when it comes to cleaning, I guess many, what does that mean in terms of being clean with myself when I've had these negative experiences? Because saying cleaning up, I don't know, kind of like a bridge. What is it that what does it mean to be clean
Mm-hmm.
when there's already so much negative experiences with spirituality or religion? Mhm.
Yeah, so that's really healing my relationship with spirituality and religion. And I think it's a very simple, sensible thing that we can all understand that, again, when something goes from new to old, it becomes less clean. And so everyone's belief individually, we can talk about organized religion, it's the same principle will apply, but just for practical simplicity, just looking at the self, we all have a little belief system within ourselves. And over time, it's become rigid and old and not so clean, and then we get disillusioned. So, if we can reconnect, and it's a very nice conversation to have with the self, respect to any change, reconnect with what is important or valuable to me, if you will, a pure vision of my own belief or religion. So, if what's really important to me is loving relationships with everyone, that's kind of my belief system or my religion. And yes, I tried different approaches, and we can call them religions or pathways or practices that didn't seem to help me honor that. But in order to heal that relationship, I don't think of it so much as a religious, the to blame the religions, because everything as it becomes old becomes dirty, including the self. I also became unclean in my own. I compromised. So I'm trying to reconnect with a pure experience of my own religion, heal that relationship. So I need to remember what that pure state of my religion looks like and use that memory, that love to help me move through the opposition, the resistance to change. So, healing the relationship with the seed or that pure origin of my own religion can help me to have a better experience of coming into a spiritual practice and not feeling so afraid or disillusioned.
So when we say a clean heart, heart is such a fascinating word. We have so many ideas of what that is. Does that mean clean heart, like being able to see myself in a clean way?
Yeah, again, coming into spirituality, we rewrite the dictionary a bit or try to figure out what the true or, if you will, useful meaning of these words. And heart is a loaded one. I think of the heart because we sometimes connect it to something called the intellect. It has a very good memory of everything. And so the most ancient memories, because we believe we are originally or intrinsically good, the most ancient or the oldest memories in our heart is of our most beautiful state, our original state. And then layered on top of that is some other interesting things, but that's the deepest memory. So the first thing, clean heart, is I'm going to honor that deepest memory. Other stuff will try and get in the way, but I'm going to honor. So it is, we're not just trying to heal our relationship with religion or spirituality. We're also trying to heal the relationship with our own memories, actually, with that original memory in the heart. So I want to kind of reunite or have a reunion. In fact, religion means to reconnect. That is the purest, cleanest definition of religion, to reconnect. So I'm reconnecting with these original memories in my heart. I'm having faith in myself again. We use the word faith interchangeably with religion. What's your faith? I think the best form of faith is faith in the self. So I'm renewing or reawakening that faith in my own original intrinsic goodness. I think that's really important to do. We know that was the beginning of Brahma Baba's journey, is to have that kind of experience or vision of himself.
So when we come into this study, we really don't have a very clean way of seeing ourselves, an
No.
honest way of seeing ourselves. So I know that, again, for those who may not have taken the course, what is God's, what's his part in all this?
I had a conversation with a soul the other day, and it fascinated me because it's exactly on this point. You could see them grappling with, you could almost say, two voices, and the two voices were sort of distorting each other. So one voice is wanting to believe in the self, but the other voice is what has happened to us over time. We can call it ego or body consciousness or self-forgetting. And how they both try to make excuses for each other and really don't help each other out. God has a way of looking at us that is so beautifully clean, sees who we truly are, and also understands what happened to us. God does not try to not see anything. It's just how God experiences what he sees is very elevating because of the understanding or perspective or lens through which he's looking, which is truth. We look in a very distorted way. We lost faith in our original self, and all we're left with is ego or body consciousness. So we're constantly trying to feel good about ourselves, but not because of seeing our original self, based on rationalizations, excuses, victim consciousness, and distortions. And that's really not a clean way to feel great about yourself. God has a very clean way. It's said that God changes the world with a look. He has a very accurate way of looking at the soul. He can see our soul conscious state, our clean, pure, true state. He also sees the ego, the attachment, all these things, but he's not looking at us through those forces. He's looking at that very clean state.
So with his vision of me, can that also, his vision of me, help me clean my vision of myself?
His vision is essential to pull me out of the muck, actually. It's a huge part of what we call yoga, is that I am trying to really be colored by God's perspective on me, God's experience of me. It's very, very clean and pure. Again, it's not denying anything, but it's understanding everything. So he's really melting away the muck and pulling out that very clean vision of the self.
So then in the study, we have these different subjects. One of them is knowledge, just the very piece of information that I am a soul. And I know we revisit this in previous sessions. Why isn't it enough just to know that I'm a soul, that like God's vision is required, or sorry, that's not the right word, but it would be so helpful.
It's great to know I'm a soul. It's great to know I'm intrinsically good. It's great to know I have all of these beautiful eternal qualities. But I still have this other stuff sitting in my heart. We talked about that original memory, and then all these layers of other memories, mistakes I've made, regrets, etc. All are unfortunately sitting in there too. So I know it's not a very glorified way. He's sometimes described as a laundryman. He's great at cleaning out that stuff. So we kind of hire him to come in and clean out the stuff we cannot clean out ourselves. We don't have the power.
So it's not enough that just to feel the
No,
soul.
the other muck, it's a bit like, I'm in my house and I've got so much dirt and everything in my house. And yes, I might find something very beautiful and valuable. Like I can look at it, but the dirt is still there around me. I need to keep that valuable thing and also clear out all the dirt. The dirt will eventually destroy my experience of that valuable thing if it's not cleared out.
In a sense, then, with God's vision, His company, yoga, as we call it, help to sustain, support my journey to experience myself. Then,
Yeah, it's very helpful. I'm sure many have experienced this in their life. It's so helpful to have someone who keeps you clean, if you will, keeps you on track, someone who you trust, who never, and this is very interesting. When I had the conversation with that soul, the one thing they kept saying is, I said, why are you okay talking to me about this? I said, because I know you will not judge me. And that seemed critical to coming clean, and so I actually ended up telling them a story about Brahma Baba, who was a jewel merchant, and he had, I don't know if it was a housekeeper or an assistant, a helper, and this soul had 2 children. And so Brahma Baba was a jewel merchant. He had been working with some jewels. He put them in a pouch, put them away, went away for a bit, came back, the pouch was gone. And he's not sure what happened to it or what's going on. And so he approached the helper and said, do you have any idea what might have happened? And the 2 of them sort of finally figured out that the 2 little boys probably took it. And so how to get them to come clean, how to get them to keep things clean. And he decided first to separate them because he knew that together they kind of didn't really act themselves. So he separated them, and it was very, very sweet. There was no sense of judgment, but he was just inviting them to explain if they maybe knew anything about it. And I think the very presence of his honesty without judgment kind of created a power in them. They came clean. They admitted that it was a very sweet story because they admitted that they had taken it and they gave it back. And he actually rewarded them. They got a treat at the end of all of this. Quite an interesting story. But the point was that we're much better at coming clean if we're with someone who doesn't hide anything, who doesn't try to solve, doesn't is very clear about what's going on, but not judgmental. And this is where it gets interesting with God, because we've projected so much of ourselves onto that being that we actually think that being judges and that being explains. If we understand what the function of God is, judging completely is counter to what that soul's function is. God will not be able to fulfill his purpose if he's judgmental, which he is not. So that's really important for the soul to sort out.
so then, ultimately, the question always comes at these sessions is how. So being able to sit in front of God's vision again and again and again, experience myself. Perhaps I may expose myself again to reflecting on the knowledge again and again would help my vision of myself be clean, my heart to be clean.
Well, I think it's important to note that the problem is not on God's side, right? God is kind of holding his position properly. So the problem is not on God's side. The distortions are coming from my side. And this is where the lesson 1 on soul consciousness is most helpful. It's helping me to sit in a more truthful place when I say I am a soul. It's a very simple introduction. I'm a soul, I'm eternal, I'm a point of light, I'm not this body. Very deceptively simple, but it's loaded with so much subtlety and benefit if I can get into that alignment. When I'm in that alignment, I can have a more accurate relationship with God.
So it seems like it's a cyclical thing then.
Mm.
My vision of myself becomes more accurate if I can allow myself to be seen,
Mm.
and yet I need to have
Yeah.
an accurate relationship with myself so
Mhm.
I can actually take benefit from God's vision of me.
Yeah, which is why there's really no end to this pilgrimage, we call it, of Raj Yoga, constantly elevating, constantly refining our experience of ourself and therefore of God and therefore ourself, which is not to say I am God. That's not what I'm saying at all. But the relationship with that being is so dependent on my state, and being with that soul can alter my state. So I'm changing my state to be closer to that soul, and the closer I get to the soul, the more my state changes. So yes, it's an upward spiral. It's very dynamic.
It's tricky because I at least I notice for students who are studying, we seem to fall into two camps actually. Kind of sort of isolate ourselves in terms of just figure myself out, maybe not put myself in God's vision. Actually, the study can become quite dry and maybe disciplined to the point where it can actually be a little bit too harsh, I suppose. Or on the other side, I want to put myself in God's vision, but how about me? How about my relationship with myself?
Yeah, it's quite interesting because if we look at traditionally paths of religion that involved thinking about God, it was very focused on God, 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 God. And I kind of got lost. I know that sounds strange, but I kind of stayed as a worshiper and really praised God. And I was left out of the equation, even though the whole function of God is to elevate the self, the child. So, yes, that can happen. And then there was always I won't say atheist camp, but the camp that it's like, yes, I believe in virtues. Yes, I believe in values, ethics, morals, and I'm going to transform. So, very beautiful intention. But I'm getting stuck in my own, there's a ceiling as to how far I can go, which is sort of captured in the concept of the law of entropy. I'm going to have to need something from outside my own little sphere to be able to break through. So, the importance of God.
Now, it's interesting if it inspires one to really want to have a clean heart and a clean vision of myself. I may not even realize it. Maybe that might be the ceiling effect that I'm facing, I suppose. Because when you were sharing one of your earlier sharings tonight, I was thinking about a sharp knife. And we often, in this study, we say that knowledge, it cuts waste, it cuts through illusion. But if that knife is dull, if it's a jagged knife and it's not a clean cut, then I wonder then if maybe I'm not able to see myself accurately to be able to remove the illusion of what I see of myself, and it's therefore I'm kind of stuck.
Mm-hmm. I think definitely the knowledge is quite powerful, and yes, it could be used as a knife actually against the self. And it's so, even how the knowledge sits in me will also depend on soul consciousness or silence, if you prefer, so that I can use that tool properly. The beauty of all of this, we talked already about God not being judging. Because when you talk about coming clean, I think it can have a very harsh and almost fearful feeling to it. But there's also no violence in Raj Yoga. So coming clean, connecting it to non-violence, to understanding, to love, to silence, to subtlety, I think that's more attractive. And gird yourself, if someone comes up to you and says, I'm gonna be completely clean with you. I'm gonna be completely honest. We kind of feel like an assault is about to hit us. Like, what are they going to say? I've had this happen to me. I literally have had people come to me and say, I have to get this out of my heart. I have to speak to you from my heart with a clean heart. And then they attack me. So it's like, it's just got, for many of us, a clean heart has a very difficult feeling connected to it because it's been connected to violence. It's been connected, ironically, to ego, to attachment, to reaction, to pain, to hurt, to none of the things that have anything to do with clean. So to connect a clean heart to truth, and there's only one soul that we describe as the keeper of truth. We say God is truth, which suggests that we all are dealing with our own opinions, which may not be truth. So, and when we deal with our own opinions, then this term clean starts to have a violent edge to it. So I want to be able to connect clean to truth. And so I can't even be honest with myself. I will be violent, either arrogant, violent against someone else, or violent to myself if it's not connected to truth. So it's quite a subtle thing to straighten out inside. I think this is one of the top things that souls suffer from or have to sort out in this study, is how to get with that truth, because only with truth is there cleanliness. There's those last three words that Dadi Genki kept underlining just before she passed away were cleanliness, truthfulness, and simplicity. And, she does this. She'll throw out three words that look so simple. And yet, as you go into them, you're saying, oh my goodness, they're so useful. They cover so much territory. So there's a connection between these three words. You know that you're being clean. That is truthful. You're connected to truthfulness. You know you're being clean when there isn't a lot of overthinking, when it's very simple. If I'm not being clean, there will be a lot of expansion, rationalization, overthinking, etc. So these three words are a lovely gift in terms of how, from a student who was very successful, on how to progress in this study.
There does seem like to be a relationship then in terms of being clean and in terms of actually being able to properly clean, actually a clean knife, I suppose, because it does seem like on the flip side, in terms of if it's not accurate, that clean knife can actually cut in a violent way. But there's also the other side of apathy, staying stuck and comfortably stuck, and maybe not being able to understand properly, so not able to change, but maybe not violent in that sense, but just not able to move forward, but sort of still stuck in a comfortable zone that's comfortable to illusion. And I might not discover that too.
And very often in Raj Yoga, and this is definitely about the essentials, this point, we are always gently redirected back to our practice of soul consciousness, because that can help to sort out a lot of those subtle distortions that might be going on inside. So the question then becomes, do I have a clean practice of soul consciousness? Because I will only get the benefits as much as that practice is clean or truthful.
Quite interesting. I know this is probably one of the last points, because I was thinking about something as simple as an engineer, if their design is sloppy versus, I think clean and accurate are connected, but there are ramifications. If my effort are is sloppy about anything, I suppose. My experience of myself as being a soul.
Yeah, if we can, connect love and accuracy, I think we'll be very far ahead. As you were sharing, I was remembering there is a quite a well-known museum in Toronto, the Art Gallery of Ontario ago. Some might be familiar with it. It's a historical building, and many years ago they had an addition put onto it. It's quite contemporary. It's glass. It's like this pyramid, but the pyramid is kind of added on in a funny shape. You're like the engineer or architect who had to engineer this. I was like, wow. And then building it, I can't even describe it. But, if you took the pyramid and you kind of turned it a bit on its head inside, and it's kind of shooting out on an angle from the building, attached to the building. And I remember seeing that and saying, the engineering had to be exact. It had to be exact for that to work out well, for the points to meet, and the accuracy. Like, they had to be so clean in their calculations. They couldn't sort of, we'll round it up because
They couldn't eyeball it.
Yeah, I wouldn't do well. Yeah, half a centimeter off over time, it's like a mile off, right? So very, and we see this. I don't know anything more valuable than the benefit of the self, the transformation, the upliftment of the self, and we don't want to be sloppy on that. We want to feel a bit more valuable than that, more worthy, that we really deserve that kind of care when it comes to the self. So I want to be clear, loving and clear. And this balance is always interesting, but it is very natural where there's truth. Where there's truth, I'll be very clear. I will see without illusion, but it will never be violent or judgmental. And that helps a lot, that balance, to keep things clean.
Wow, it seems like we even need to heal our relationship with what truth is. Especially when it's like, I got something honest to tell you, which is supposed to mean something about truth.
Mm-hmm.
And that creates a not so good feeling inside.
Yeah, truth I don't feel will ever be violent or hurt. It will heal, it will resolve, it will restore. But if you ever find you're saying, I've got to be completely truthful with you, it's okay to say what you're going to say, but make sure your communication is clean. And I think sometimes it's more clean to say, I have something hurtful to share with you. Because I don't think the truth is ever really hurtful. If it is, then I'm not quite aligned with the truth. So,
well, thank you. I hope that it's becoming more clear in terms of how important a clean heart is. Sometimes I think we want to dive into anything, I guess, out there. We're really enthusiastic. But if we don't really check our foundation, which includes intention, includes seeing and understanding properly, we might actually create more harm for ourselves. So I feel that we should transition to a little reflection. Thank you.
one of the most powerful roles I can assume with respect to myself, and a powerful role that God wants to assume with respect to me, is the role of teacher. A teacher is a beautiful role. Their function is to share knowledge or truth. And their intention in doing that is to educate, educe, or draw out the highest potential of the student. It's not to judge or to hurt or to control, but to draw out the full development of the student, and to come to myself with that intention, in a way to be a teacher to myself, to engage in the study of truth, with the intention and the deep belief in my highest potential, and to also interact with God as a teacher, understanding that that soul's focus and pure intention is only to draw out my highest potential. Very clean and very uplifting. Om Shanti.
Thank you for joining this evening, and we're always monitoring the chat box, but if you have questions, you're more than
And yet
welcome
we
to.
continue to talk to ourselves.
Yes. You're welcome to email us if you have questions or if you have topics that, if you're already studying Raja Yoga or questions about Raja Yoga, that would help you in terms of moving forward, going deeper, or even interested in taking the course, please email us. I will pass it over to you, Judy, for upcoming sessions.
Sorry.
Thank you for the thoughtful discussion. Actually, there was some realizations inside for myself, and maybe some topics that have come up for the future as well. So thank you.
Nora's got topics that will take us well into the months and years ahead.
Actually, no, but I hope so.
That's a great segue, speaking about taking the course, a great segue into something that we have coming up this weekend, something we're trying new, 90-minute workshop based on the teachings of Raj Yoga. And this first weekend, November 21st, 12 to 1:30 p.m. on the Zoom platform, is about applied spirituality. So really looking practically at what does this all have to do with my life and my dreams and my hopes, and maybe even facing challenges at this time. So applied spirituality, 12 to 1:30 on the Zoom platform. Visit our website to get the details of how to register and join. And then the next weekend, the 28th of November, another 90-minute workshop, 12 to 1:30 on the God experience. So again, not just talking about God or thinking about God or worshiping God, but experiencing a relationship with that being, the God experience. So those are coming up. Our drop-in meditation continues Tuesdays and Thursdays, 6:30 to 6:45 to 7:30 in the evening. Interviews continue Tuesdays and Thursdays, 7:35 to 8:15. And Sunday evening, 6:30 to 7:30, full hour of meditation. I believe that's everything. We always invite your feedback. Feel free to email us with your thoughts. And thank you for joining. Om Shanti.